I am Jim Collison, and this is the Wellbeing at Work with CliftonStrengths podcast recorded on January 13th, 2022. In this CliftonStrengths podcast, we'll look at the strengths, insight, and action planning items from Appendix 1 in the Gallup book, Wellbeing at Work, one theme at a time. And today's theme is consistency. If you're listening live, love you join us. Have you join us in our chat. There's a link right above me there. Jump in there. Those will be important here a little bit later. If you have questions after the fact, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning Development Consultant and was and is the primary contributor to Appendix 1 in the Wellbeing at Work book, which I hope you all have. Jacqueline, great to see you. We've had a couple weeks off. Folks listening probably haven't, but welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see everyone in chat again. It's good to be here.
It is good to be with you. Let's dive right in. Let's start with the theme definition. We're talking about consistency. How do we define consistency?
We at Gallup define consistency as the folks that are keenly aware of the need to treat people the same. So they crave and appreciate stable routines alongside clear rules and procedures that everyone can follow.
Yeah, I think a really important and one of those that good managers can have, doesn't mean you have to have it to be a great manager, but so let's talk a little bit more about that. How does it relate to you? And then how does that relate to others?
If I think about how it relates to you, if you lead with this, you likely feel and be at your best when life feels like it follows, I like to call it a standard operating procedure. Manual, meaning there's guidelines that help both you and those around you understand what is expected and not expected. And I think that sense of clarity and boundary setting and awareness helps you lead with confidence and knowing that expectations and fairness and equality have been established. From an other's perspective, when projects go awry or the team feels unclear on next steps, this is where people can count on you to bring forth solutions that can create stability and fairness, and that can turn chaos into consistency.
Jacqueline, do you think there are certain types of jobs where consistency is more needed than others? Maybe, or is it across the board? We called this theme fairness in the past. Do you think it needs to be fairly standard across the board?
Where I've seen this show up frequently and people just kind of live and breathe there is when they can be in a role where they can create these standard operating procedures or guidelines that folks have to abide by. So we could even consider just human resources as an example where there's certain things that every employee in the workplace needs to consider, or even in higher education institutions where students have certain rules they have to follow. And beyond that, you can really individualize at the more local level. But that's where I've seen people just really thrive in that type of environment.
I have consistency really low. I was in the military. Of course, fairness and consistency is the mainstay, right? In a job like that, I didn't do very well. How does this theme look? We're spending this season talking about well-being. And of course, how does this theme look thriving versus struggling?
Yeah, if I think about thriving from a personal standpoint, life feels predictable and stable as a result of crafting rules and guidelines and boundaries that both friends and family, I think, can recognize and respect. Um, this might look like a dinner routine that the family's familiar with and appreciates. So, for example, dinner is going to be every night between 6 and 7 p.m., and then the kids are going to do the chores afterwards. From a professional standpoint, there's predictability in the role and likely some guidelines that all the team need to abide by. From a struggling perspective, I really see it from that opposite end of the spectrum, where they might be struggling personally and professionally when responsibilities change frequently, or life's throwing curveballs and obstacles that just upend that existing structure that they've put in place. And those that I know with consistency, they tend to like that personally and professionally. It's everyone in the family, all my friends are going to know what's expected. We're going to have that routine, but also in the workplace.
There may be some times, we talked a little bit about this last night. We were doing a podcast where we talked about where individual contributors can provide leadership with consistency. In other
Mhm.
words, like in times of chaos, in times of and maybe
Yes.
even relational chaos, right? Folks
Yes.
with high consistency can come in and lead themselves, lead the teams, lead those around them, and it may be a great opportunity. I mean, last 2 years have certainly been calm around the world, and so it's a great great opportunity for those leaders to, even those influencers, to be able to
Yeah.
bring that as a a healing balm, so to speak, to groups. We
Agreed.
we have some best practice examples in the book, some things that you wrote, some work that you did, talking about this with the theme with one of the well-being elements. What do you have for us with that
Oh,
today?
yeah. So the one that I wanted to share today was career well-being. And it goes really right to what you were just mentioning. There's with the current work environment, so many folks might feel a bit unstable or unsure of what's coming next. And so this could be a really great time for those leading with consistency to bring forth that stability. So when the team faces serious uncertainty, this person can help establish team standards. They will provide stability, confidence, and fairness. So way to tee us up for that one because this is consistency's time to shine, I think, in the
Yeah, I
workplace.
think it is. I think it's probably needed more than ever in the sense of people are feeling. I mean, so that we're in all in different new environments. You and I were just
Mhm.
talking about that in pre-show, and we kind of keep thinking we're going to go back to something that I don't know if it's going to exist by the time we get a
Yes.
chance to go back to it, right? And so
Yes.
those folks with consistency can begin to figure out on their teams or their divisions or whatever, right? How do
Mhm.
we, in this world of differentness, how do we create this fairness, this consistency of relationships
Mhm.
across the board? Because we're all struggling with that, right? So we
Yeah.
also have four other elements in the back of the book. It's an appendix one for you if you want to go back. A great resource for coaches or for individuals to go back as we think about this idea of how do I take these themes and apply well-being concepts? We'd also love to hear from you if you've got some, if you're doing some of those things out of the back of the book. We'd love to hear from you as well. So, Jacqueline, with this in mind, with consistency in mind, I think this is really the important part. How can we use this to help others? We've mentioned a few ways to do it, but what
Mhm.
other ways can we do it? Maybe kind of based on role.
I've got some thoughts here. If you're a manager or you're leading a team, identify areas where people feel more uncertain or unclear on expectations or goals. And then what solutions come to mind that, with some implementation, can bring clarity and confidence to the individual or to the team that you're working with? If you're on a team, so I would think prior to engaging in a work project together, helping the team come up with just 2 to 3 guidelines that will help everyone work more efficiently
Mm,
together, such as honoring deadlines or responding to each other's emails within 48 hours, can help create some sense of stability and also just respect for each other and fairness for each other. And then as an individual, when life feels out of control at times, I think just stepping back, recentering yourself, and creating guidelines within your own locus of control can help you feel more grounded. Um, I would also say, when feasible, sharing those guidelines with your manager, with your family, with your friends, with your partner, so that they too can respect those guidelines that you've established
mhm.
for yourself. Because sometimes you might have those guidelines in place, but other people might not honor it. So claim it, and share it, and help them help you.
Maybe even in those virtual happy hour relationships that you've built during this time as you're connecting with people, whatever that is, a great
Yeah.
opportunity to kind of work through that. You use two words. Was We were talking about a manager or leading a team. You use two words that I wanted to highlight, but they escaped me already. What were those two? Those that they can bring. What were those two words? Do you remember them?
They can bring clarity and confidence.
Clarity and confidence. I love those
Clarity and
two words
confidence.
together. Like,
Mhm.
and I think that really highlights this idea of consistency. In other words, I can be more confident in knowing what I'm doing when I have clarity and when the
Mhm.
rules are defined. We all really want that at times, right? We all sometimes
Yes.
need that. Even you and I that live in a crazy adaptability world where we're moving around all the time,
Yes.
we still need to kind of know where some of those walls exist, right? And I think
Definitely.
leaders with consistency can bring some of that stability to us as well. So I think there's some good. I love that. That's something you can hang. That's something you can hang your hat on. So, in Appendix 2, we have a framework for you where we kind of work through a kind of a 3-step process. Let's look at consistency through that framework.
Yes. So ask yourself, my consistent friends, is the vision for the future clear to my team or the team? And where or how can I add clarity? And then one thing that I just wanted to caveat here is where can you add clarity through rules or guidelines that you can help them create? You could ask your team members if you could make one change for the better. And this is where I also put in parentheses that feels fair and equal to all. What would it be? If you could make one change for the better that feels fair and equal to all, what would it be? And asking team members that to see what they need for themselves. And then taking action, add or suggest physical well being activities that could be added to the monthly calendar. That way, everyone has a fair chance to focus on their well being. So, this could look like even using the first 15 minutes of a meeting to just move around and walk around before everyone comes back and gets started,
Mm.
whether it's on site or virtually. So those are in the back of Appendix 2. And of course, for this framework, I always like to frame it up in a way that makes sense to that theme as well. So you're hearing a little bit of that in what I'm
Mhm.
mentioning.
Yeah, again, ask yourself, ask your team members, take action. I think a great
Hmm.
coaching framework is I was reading through this when the book came out. I thought, oh, this will work in podcast form, and we need to get that as well.
Yes.
I love Jack, and I love the idea. You think about giving. We're all doing, for the most part. A lot of us are doing meetings virtually. If we're not, we're in a service industry where we're out having to do
Hmm.
things. And I love that idea of figuring out, especially in these areas of well-being, how can we blend these well-being pieces in so that everybody on the team is getting an opportunity for what works best for them in this
Yes.
in this area to make them better, because we know we need it, right? anything
Hmm.
else anything else you want to add before I kind of close this up?
I would just say the one insight that I really loved was the piece on asking team members. I don't know if I would have necessarily thought of that initially without even having gone back to Appendix 2, but consistency can really bring that. I just love the idea of asking team members and inviting them. What would bring, what would bring more fairness and equality to our local level, to our team,
Mhm.
to you, and get their ideas? Because you might have your own insights, but they might have a new way of looking at things. You go, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, let's do that so we can create that stability.
With a new lens
Consistency, we
on
need you.
sorry to interrupt you
Oh,
on
no,
that.
you're
with
good.
with the new lens on DEI, I think we've got an
Yes.
opportunity to kind of lead with that, like,
Mhm.
from an opportunity standpoint, from an access standpoint. I think we've got, and then from a well-being standpoint, do we all, from a team or from a group or whatever, do we all have equal access to
Yes.
well-being, to be able to do these things for ourselves? So I
Yes.
think those with consistency are designed to help us in this area as well. So jump in and do that as well.
Agreed.
From the chat room, it doesn't look like a lot of us listening tonight have a lot of it. So we got some work to do. We'll chat a little bit about that here in the
We've
mid
got
show.
Ken.
Yeah, we've got
Thank
Ken.
you,
You're gonna
Ken.
you're gonna carry it. You're going to carry it for us. So, well, with that, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available now in Gallup Access. Head out to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths, kind of a one-stop shop for a lot of the resources we have that's out there. For coaching, master coaching, or become a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can just send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. We'll get someone to get back with you, give you some information. If you have any questions on anything, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. And many of you do. I said that for a lot of years and never got any emails. And then lately I get an email every day. So I appreciate you guys sending those questions in as well. Of course, you can find us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. And if you're listening to this as a podcast or on YouTube, hit subscribe. Like, just do it. In fact, if you're listening live, you can hit subscribe right now. You'll get a notification whenever we go live, and you'll never miss an episode. I want to thank you for joining us. If you're listening live, stay around for the mid show. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.